What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Fuel channel, where we speak the truth, we're honest, and we give out takes on professional wrestling. It is Wednesday night, June 26, 2024. And ladies and gentlemen, this is your AEW Dynamite review. Tonight, we had the go-home show to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view on Sunday on Long Island. We're going to break everything down that happened tonight. Interesting show. Not as good as the past 2 weeks, though. That I will say. I thought the last 2 weeks were much better than tonight's show. Not saying tonight's show is bad, but just the last 2 weeks were better. And this is weird because for this to be a go-home show for a pay-per-view on Sunday, a lot of the bigger angles on the show, at least two of them, were built towards after Forbidden Door. Believe it or not, one of the angles was built for All In, which is the opening segment, which we are going to talk about in just a little bit. But there's some stuff announced for Forbidden Door. We got some good wrestling. I thought the main event was great. I thought the match between Jay White and Rey Fenix was fun for what it was. I thought the Zack Sabre Jr. Kyle O'Reilly match was a great match. And there's some good stuff on the show. And we'll highlight it all here tonight. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. If you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the Big Fight Fuel channel. And also, go ahead and check out episode 8 of Chopping It Up with last night, me and Cameron Johnson talking all things WWE. Wyatt 6, Jacob Fatu, all of that. And then tonight, we're here talking AEW Dynamite. Tomorrow, I will bring you my Forbidden Door preview and predictions. Whether or not I have guests on the show remains to be seen. And then maybe I'll have some basketball content in the next coming weeks, because tonight was the NBA draft, which I will say absolutely zero buzz for the NBA draft compared to the NFL draft. I didn't even know it was happening until Monday. So that's how much buzz the NBA draft has. Zero. Absolutely zero. But, you'll have free agency and all that coming soon. Hopefully the Sixers make a deal. They have $65 million in cap space. So, hopefully it's some exciting stuff from the Sixers, and I can, talk about some big moves that they make in the offseason. But stay tuned for that. And let's get into Dynamite. And then, of course, Sunday night, I'll be here with the Forbidden Door review. Now let's get into Dynamite. The show opened up with MJF. MJF was scheduled to appear live in filthy Buffalo, New York. Fuck Buffalo, always. They were in Buffalo tonight. So Daniel Garcia came out, immediately interrupted MJF. And MJF was like, you better be careful with what you're about to say. And Garcia, he talks about the city of Buffalo. Buffalo is where he grew up. He talks about his family being in the front row. His mother is sitting in the front row tonight. And then he says he's about to do something that not a lot of people tend to do with MJF. And he is going to say nice things about MJF. He says this was close to a year and a half ago, where Garcia was pulled backstage by MJF, and MJF had a conversation with Daniel Garcia where he told him that he's more of a sidekick, he's more of a lackey, and in his eyes, Daniel Garcia could be a pillar in AEW. And at that point, Garcia, that meant the world to him. And that was close to the time where he challenged MJF for the AEW World Championship. And he says, well, he thought he could go from being a pillar to being a cornerstone, being the workhorse of AEW. He said the World Championship match with MJF was one of the most embarrassing moments of his life. I don't even remember the match, so I don't know what he's talking about. But he said it was one of the most embarrassing moments of his life. So then he talks about grinding and going on a run of a life. The run of a lifetime. He's in the Continental Classic. He beats Brody King. And he talks about this run of a lifetime just to get to the TNT Championship and lose. And having to start all over again in the grind. And MJF gives him credit. He says, this is why you are a cornerstone here in AEW. You're not going for the grind. He said, Daniel Garcia, you are the grind. And you are a changed man since we last met in the ring for the AEW World Championship a year and a half ago. So MJF says before Garcia went on his what he said, what he had to say. He said he came out here because he was actually going to call him out and ask him a question. And the big question for this was, MJF said, I want to challenge you to a match, one-on-one. MJF versus Daniel Garcia, Wembley Stadium at All In. And before Daniel Garcia, the crowd's going crazy. The crowd's chanting, yes, yes, yes. And before Daniel Garcia could answer the challenge for MJF, he's interrupted by Will Ospreay. And Will Ospreay puts over Daniel Garcia in Buffalo. He says he loves the fine people in Buffalo. He praises Daniel Garcia for earning a championship match the correct way, beating opponents faster than he could last in bed. So that was his joke. And the crowd laughed. And Will said, sorry, missus, talking to his wife. So MJF is just standing at the corner. And he is pissed. He's got a pissed look at Will Ospreay. Why is he pissed at Will Ospreay? Because Will Ospreay just upstaged MJF. And he says, look, next week in Chicago, I want to give you a match that you've earned and you've deserved for the AEW International Championship. And if I beat Swerve, or when I beat Swerve at Forbidden Door, it'll be for both the International Championship and the AEW World Championship. Daniel Garcia shakes Will Ospreay's hand, so there you go. And they're calling it AEW Dynamite Beach Break next week in Chicago. It'll be Daniel Garcia challenging Will Ospreay for the AEW International Championship. And I thought this segment was really good. This is probably the talking point of the show because it involves All In. It involves a big match next week. And I saw people on social media panicking that MJF's opponent at All In is going to be Daniel Garcia. First of all, don't disrespect Daniel Garcia like that. Daniel Garcia, he's awesome, okay? Daniel Garcia is fantastic. He's got a good story behind him, good character. He's a fantastic wrestler. Don't disrespect Daniel Garcia like that. Second of all, the match is not happening, okay? If you haven't picked up on the cues, more this week than next week, it seems as though AEW is building to a match between Will Ospreay and MJF for the International Championship at All In. That's the direction I think they're going at with this. And that is probably going to be the biggest match on the entire card, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, because that is That's two of the biggest stars in AEW going face to face. You want a dream match in AEW? Folks, ladies and gentlemen, Will Ospreay versus MJF is a dream match. And that's the truth. So that's the direction they're going in. It's not going to be MJF versus Daniel Garcia. That's not going to happen. But it's going to be Daniel Garcia versus Will Ospreay next week in Chicago for the International Championship. And that's fun. That's going to be a hell of a match. Excited to see that one go down. Then we get to the Blackpool Combat Club against LFI. I was about to say LFI. LIJ. La Facción Ingobernable de Japón. This is Shingo Takagi, Teton, and Hiromu Takahashi. The match was fine until Jon Moxley hit Takahashi with a steel chair, and he hit Takahashi with a steel chair, which resulted in a DQ. This was a big brawl between the Blackpool Combat Club and LIJ, which resulted in Tetsuya Naito coming down and getting face-to-face with Moxley before Moxley started a brawl in the aisleway. And by the reaction that this Buffalo crowd gave to Tetsuya Naito, it was not, they did not care. And when I saw this, I'm like, damn, Naito is not really getting a reaction. He's getting a soft pop. And the reality is this. I love Forbidden Door. I'm excited for Forbidden Door. So this won't change my opinion. But the fact of the matter is, by the way this crowd reacted to Tetsuya Naito and some of the wrestlers that you've seen the past couple weeks, Hechicero, they love Tanahashi. They know who Tanahashi is. They loved Ishii tonight. They know who Zack Sabre Jr. is. Zack Sabre Jr. is really good. But by the CMLL guys who wrestled Blackpool Combat Club a couple weeks ago to LIJ, to Hechicero, who's wrestling one of the biggest stars in the company, MJF versus Hechicero is one of the bigger matches on the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, even though it's not really a pay-per-view match. He's wrestling one of the biggest stars in the entire company. I don't think people care about the concept of Forbidden Door anymore. I don't think people care about wrestlers from New Japan, wrestlers from CMLL, and it's a shame. It is, because you don't really see them much. Yes, we saw CMLL a lot during the beginning of the year, and there's always New Japan wrestlers who come here and there. We saw Zack Sabre Jr. wrestle at Wrestle Dream last year. There's been instances where New Japan Pro wrestlers have come to AEW before the Forbidden Door, but that's just my opinion. I don't think American audiences care much about the Forbidden Door aspect anymore, and they don't care about the CMLL or the New Japan wrestlers as much as they needed to. And the part of the big reason as to why that is because AEW now has those wrestlers that were in New Japan. They have Jay White. They have Will Ospreay. They have Okada. So when you take those three names and you put them in AEW, who does New Japan have left? So I get it. I understand, and I get where these fans are coming from. I really do. So, what did we have after this? I don't even remember. Was it Jay White and Ray Phoenix? I think so. I think after this was Jay White and Ray Phoenix, which was a good match. Yes. Okay, Jay White versus Ray Phoenix. Everybody was barred from ringside. Jay White ended up picking up the win, as expected. He beats Ray Phoenix with the Blade Runner. They had a good match, and after the match, he got interrupted by the Patriarchy, Christian Cage, Nick Wayne, Luchasaurus. For those of you who don't know, the Patriarchy are going after the Trios titles. That's why Christian Cage came out. But good stuff, and Jay White is going to the semifinals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. We got a message from the Young Bucks, and they said last week, he said, the hothead, Nicholas said, the hothead in me took over, and I grabbed these objects, which was the tag team championships, and I decided to use them when I shouldn't have, and I cracked my brother over the head with the tag team championship, and therefore the Acclaimed won. And he said, you know what? Screw it. I'm not even going to talk about the Acclaimed because they're not worth my time right now. We'll worry about them later. But right now, he wants all the control. He says, Matthew, says that Sunday at Forbidden Door, Jack Perry is going to climb the ladder and become your new TNT champion. He says, after that, we are going to insert a name from the Elite in the wild card of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. He is going to run the table in the Owen Hart Cup, and he is going to go to All In, win the AEW World Championship, and the Elite will have all the gold in AEW. They basically just told you how Hangman Adam Page is coming back. He's coming back as a heel. He's going to be in the Elite. He's going to be on the Elite's team in Blood and Guts. We're going to get a proper heel babyface feud with heel Hangman and babyface Swerve Strickland. Because before Hangman took his break, we had tweener Hangman versus babyface Swerve. And now Hangman's going to be coming back as a full-fledged heel because he's going to be in the Elite. And the Elite are the biggest heels in AEW. So, there you go. We've been calling it for months here on the Big Fight Field channel. Since the announcement of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. The Acclaimed. They came out and they cut a promo. And they said that they beat the Young Bucks. And he said if they could beat them once, they will certainly beat them again. Become two-time AEW Tag Team Champions, and they go for the scissor, and before they can do that, they get interrupted by the Young Bucks and Okada. Okada says, "Scissor me, bitch," and the crowd laughs. That's Okada's new thing, and the crowd absolutely loves it, as do I. But basically, this was to set up match at Forbidden Door. The Young Bucks challenged them to a 6-man tag team match at Forbidden Door. And Daddy S says, I got one better. He says, I know how to deal with EVPs when I can counter with a president. And we see Hiroshi Tanahashi on the Titantron. Crowd gives it a huge pop. And he calls himself the Scissor Ace, which I thought was funny. So it's going to be the Scissor Ace, Hiroshi Tanahashi, and the Acclaimed against the Young Bucks and Okada at Forbidden Door. That should be fun. That should be a fun match. I'm looking forward to that. Toni Storm, Mariah May, and Mina Shirakawa, they defeated Saraya, Anna Jay, and Harley Cameron. After the match, Mina and Mariah May were dancing, and then Toni Storm and Mariah May were dancing to Mina Shirakawa's theme music. They toasted. Mariah May offered the toast to both Toni Storm and Mina, and they drank the champagne. Then, as Tony Storm and uh, Mariah May were dancing, Mina goes to grab another champagne bottle, and she is going to crack it over the head of Tony Storm, only for it not to be Tony Storm, and she cracks it over the head of Mariah May. Tony Storm is screaming at Mina. There is doctors checking on Mariah, and that is going to result in the Forbidden Door match. My guess is now that Mariah May is going to help Tony Storm retain the Women's Championship against Mina Shirakawa. They've actually done a pretty good job building this matchup. I'm not going to lie, with the storyline of which side is Mariah May on. They did a nice job introducing Mina to the AEW audience a couple weeks ago and her relationship with Mariah May. And everybody loves the Tony Storm Mariah May relationship. This is actually the first Tony Storm feud that has been somewhat interesting since she won the championship. Because I say it every week on here. Every feud Tony Storm has had since she has won the Women's Championship has been the same. And this is different. This is interesting with Mariah May. She's the main focal point of this whole thing between Mina and Tony Storm. It's Mariah May. It's which side is Mariah May gonna pick? Mariah May. Okay, tongue twister. So it's interesting, and I think with Mina cracking the champagne bottle over Mariah May is going to help Tony Storm. She's going to help Tony Storm win the match on Sunday. So then we get Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho and the Learning Tree. Jericho talks about how unfair it was that Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata, how they took out the Bad Apple on Collision. Brian Keith is in an arm sling, and he's not able to compete. And Big Bill says one of the best lessons. Well, first of all, this was awesome. Jericho, he says, my job here, he says, what was it? I can't find it. Shit. Oh, here it is. He says, you guys know the main reason why I'm here in AEW, and it's because of the young guys. I want to help out the young guys. And this was fantastic. This was hilarious. And the reason this was as good as it was because today, in one of Cody Rhodes' interviews with the media, Cody Rhodes said, and I quote, my number one red flag is a veteran wrestler saying, I'm just here to help the young guys. And Jericho says, the number one reason why I'm here in AEW is to help the young guys. Jericho knew what he was doing in that situation. So, shout out to Chris Jericho, man. That was fucking awesome. That was hilarious. And I was definitely laughing at that. But then, Big Bill says, if there's anything that I learned from this sicko, he called him something sicko, is that when one door opens, another door, a forbidden door, opens. And Jericho said, we got somebody from Japan to team with us on Sunday, and we haven't watched it yet because we want to watch it with you guys And they show it on the Titantron, and it is Minoru Suzuki, and Jericho and the rest of the Learning Tree was fooled because Suzuki said, "You are a clown. You're scared of me. I want nothing to do with the Learning Tree." He says, "The Learning Tree? What is that? I want nothing to do with that." Instead, he challenges him one-on-one for the FTW Championship. So I'm confused. They made nothing official. Is it for the FTW Championship? Is it a six-man tag with Joe and his guys against the Learning Tree? I don't know. They made nothing official with this segment. I'm sure that Tony Khan will tweet something tonight, or at least I'll try to find something on Twitter. We know Jericho's going to be on the pay-per-view, so yeah, they've made nothing official yet, but yeah. Kyle O'Reilly and Zack Sabre Jr. Sabre Jr. wins via tap out. He tapped out Kyle O'Reilly. Good technical match, really good stuff. Orange Cassidy, Sabre, I should say, gets in Orange Cassidy's face when Orange Cassidy's in the ring. He's trying to help Kyle O'Reilly. Sabre gets in the face. The rest of Sabre's faction get in the ring, and out came Tomohiro Ishii to stand by the side of Orange Cassidy. And then in the main event, Swerve and Will Ospreay, they were able to coexist, and they defeated the Mogul. They defeated the Gates of Agony in what was a really good tag team match. Great wrestling in that match. And after the match, as Swerve goes to walk away, Ospreay does the same thing he did a couple weeks ago, which is snatch the World Championship out of Swerve's hands. And this time, Swerve didn't do nothing about it. Swerve did something about it. He kicked him in the knee and gave him a last call, a kick to the head. Then he held up the World Championship. So Swerve was the last guy standing on the go-home show. I hope that does not mean that Will Ospreay is going to win the AEW Championship, because that, I don't think that's a good decision. When Ospreay won the number one contendership to face Swerve, I'm like, this is going to be so hard to predict. But now looking at it, if they give Ospreay the World Championship, he's already got a match lined up for Wembley with MJF. Swerve versus Hangman for the World Championship at All In is the way to go. Those are your two big matches going into Wembley. MJF Ospreay, Hangman Swerve. That's it. That's the way to go. Before we get out of here, we will talk about the Forbidden Door card. Tomorrow night I'll be on here predicting the Forbidden Door pay-per-view. Whether or not I'll be joined by guests is to be determined. But right now, this is your Forbidden Door match card. Nothing confirmed with the Learning Tree yet, so more than likely we will have 10 main card matches for Forbidden Door. But six-man tag, the Elite, that's the Young Bucks and Kazuchika Okada against Hiroshi Tanahashi and the Acclaimed. Owen Hart Cup first-round tournament match. Shingo Takagi versus Bryan Danielson. That should be really damn good. MJF versus Hechizero. Zack Sabre Jr. versus Orange Cassidy. Stephanie Vaquer versus Mercedes Moné for both the New Japan Strong and TBS Championship. A ladder match to crown a new TNT champion. We have Konosuke Takeshita, Mark Briscoe, Jack Perry, Dante Martin, Leo Rush, and a mystery participant. AEW Women's Championship, Mina Shirakawa against Toni Storm. IWGP Heavyweight Championship, Tetsuya Naito versus Jon Moxley, and your main event for the AEW World Championship, Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. So, there you go, folks. That is your Forbidden Door card on Sunday. And after the pay-per-view on Sunday night, we will be here breaking it all down for you here on the Big Fight Field channel. But I'm going to get out of here. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe. Comment down below your thoughts on tonight's Go Home show. Hit the like button if you liked what you heard from me. Follow me on Twitter at Colin_Joseph. And I will see you guys tomorrow night for Forbidden Door preview and predictions. Have a good night. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy. And I'm out. Peace.